This debate that is raging on about Isibaya is what I want us to have today and see, maybe raise some points against and for, and see which way people should go in terms of making decisions on whether they should attend Isibaya or not. So the way I was looking at it, because I was previously of the idea that maybe not attending Isibaya, which the king called for, would be the most noble thing to do and the most informed thing to do. But now I'm realizing that after looking at, some variables, I realized that at least that was not a very good position to take. Now I am of the idea that people should really attend Isibaya and for their own good and for the good of the people that they lead, and make sure that they make their presentation at Isibaya, because what difference really is it going to make if you don't attend Isibaya? What point would you be trying to put forward into who? Because from the way I see it, the political parties are not even legal in Swaziland. And when Mswati count the people that come to Isibaya, it doesn't count political parties. It doesn't count the number of political parties that are going to attend Isibaya. It doesn't even count the number of people who are there. It might be 100, it might be 200, it might be 1,000, it might be 20,000. To him, a crowd of people constitute the people of Swaziland, and that is exactly what he's going to say after Isibaya, that I had a conversation, I had dialogue with my people, and we agreed on this. And the agreement, whatever they are going to agree on, is something that you are not even part to agreeing if you decided to abstain, if you decide not to really involve yourself in these discussions. So I am the opinion that if you don't go for Isibaya, you will be shooting yourself in the foot. I don't think you are not going to make a decision not to go to Isibaya because you are afraid that the king would really harass you. I don't think, I think you are protected on Isibaya to say whatever you want. It's only that most people, and you Swazi people, don't take that opportunity when the king presents it to you to say exactly how you feel. Or maybe it will be something, it will seem like something that is out of, or maybe you look like you are out of line when you say things that the king doesn't like. But I think this is your opportunity to say something different, and people might find it very, very, very thrilling, and you might really enjoy hearing something different on Isibaya, and you might buy yourself some followers there, because there will be a lot of the king's followers who doesn't even understand what the pro-democracy fighters are trying to do. And if you really make your presentations and maybe make your case very clearly, they might even understand what you're trying to put forward, because the king will be surrounded by his dogs for sure, and his dogs doesn't listen to anything. They only understand the language of the king. But if you are to expose them to your own language, to your own discourse, they might even understand it, and you might even find them listening to what you'll be saying. So some people are even giving this argument that we are not going to attend Isibaya because it will be like we are giving the king recognition, and we are giving justification, we are authenticating his position as king if we go and listen to what he says. I think this really doesn't really, it's a point that I regard as a very weak point, because the king is not there because he's put there by, he wasn't elected, he's there by birth, and whether or not you recognize him, it's immaterial. The king will always be there, whether or not you go there to show your recognition, and as some people are saying, he's a fake king. It's not of any importance. It's no one is going to measure that, and nobody is even interested in that. So you are not going there, would not really, you won't be scoring any points if you fail to go because of those kinds of reasons, because no one is even looking at that. What we are looking at it is whether the king really is made to move, be brought to a certain understanding, and maybe whether the king is really receives what the people want. He knows what the people want. It's just to make it public to the people in general, and maybe make it official that you have presented this kind of you are petitioning your king to do certain things, which maybe you, which obviously, which is likely to ignore, of course. But It will be on record that you have told him. It will be on record that you went to Isibaya. And remember, Isibaya doesn't have a quorum. One thing that I really want to make clear to the people who are making a decision, whether who are championing the fact that you should not go for Isibaya, it doesn't have a quorum. Like maybe if people are less than 10,000, then it's not Isibaya. Or if people are less than 5,000, it's not Isibaya. Or if people are less than 500, it's not Isibaya. Whatever number of people are there constitutes Isibaya, because there is no minimum number of people required to really execute the gathering or the dialogue. So really, I really fail to see the point. This is your best time. This is the best foot forward if you want the king to recognize you as political parties, because there's no way he's going to say, this we are coming from this political, because you are going there as a group of people, pro-democracy activists, as a group of individuals with the same voice. You are saying the same thing. And the king, although he knows that these people are from these particular parties, because I think he knows about the parties, he's not in a position to start maybe classifying and categorizing people according to their parties. He's supposed to listen to you as Swazi people who are making their presentations on this platform. Because what I realized that Ramaphosa, when he came to Swaziland, he left everything in the hands of the king. He left the king. They told the king, I think it might not have been officially said to him, but they were leaving so that the king can sort out his mess, because they are saying the king is the ruler and is still sitting in the position to rule. He must talk to his people. You are not going to see Ramaphosa coming down to mediate on anything, because it will be like, according to Sadak, it will be like undermining the king's rule, because this is the king's territory. And by living in the manner, I think you pro-democracy people, you are not even given a report. The king might even have said that I don't recognize this our constitution says this and that. You even might have taken out the constitution, because the king believes that he is ruling by the constitution, and also he is believing that he is in a constitutional democracy. He is having what is having there in Swaziland is a democracy. So if you would want to impress on him that you are democratic simply because you are on the sidelines and you are not, and my other point is that if you are a democrat, the whole concept of democracy is sitting down together and talking and having consensus. And it's a question of numbers, and you can't determine your numbers when you stay outside, because we don't even know the numbers that you have when you are staying outside there. How are we going to count? Because the democracy also is about the rule of the people by the people. And Mswati will have a lot of them on Isibaya, I'm telling you this. There are no two ways about it. He will have a lot of the masses with him there. Then what are you going to say? Who are you even going to say to? What are you even going to say to who? About what? Isibaya would have transpired, and by absenting yourself, by making yourself unavailable, you would just have made it worse, your situation worse, as people who are just defined. Because Mswati labels you, the label that he puts on pro-democracy, that they are just a few people who are drunk, who are zooted, who take drugs, and they are just causing trouble. They are not a lot of people. So you see, it's a catch-22 situation. It's not easy. You take a chance and you may lose, and take not a chance and you might have lost already. So which one is better then? You have to take your chances. We are not saying this is a winning shot, but it might bring you something. Because very little is better than nothing. And nothing is what you get when you really don't get yourself involved in Isibaya. Do it or don't do it, you might regret both. But my honest opinion is that I think if you don't lose anything by just trying to get involved, And you might lose everything by staying outside. By isolating yourself from Isibaya, you might lose the chance that is really supposed to bring you something. I know it won't bring a lot because the king is a very thick, very obstinate person who doesn't listen to anyone, who only listens to his own mouth. But you won't lose anything, honestly, by being there and making your presentations. You just need to get organized. And not because I don't see any other way right now. I think all the other ways are failing. These attacks that you are making on infrastructure and anything, they are so sporadic. They lack spontaneity. They can't take you anywhere. So getting involved in this dialogue is one of the best ways you can reach your destination. It might not be the only way, but maybe you can say afterwards, when you want to launch maybe some of these attacks that you are doing, you might look back in retrospect and tell them that we were at Isibaya and we made these presentations. And you did not listen to us. So we are resorting to this because our voices were not actually heard. Our voices cannot be heard. I think it will make sense. But when you make a decision to stay out and always out, and maybe there's no chance that you can push anyone to a negotiating table and to any other kind of negotiations apart from Isibaya negotiations. And Ramaphosa understands that because they always leave the rest with the person who is in charge, the government in question. If you don't understand how SADC really works,
they used to leave everything with Robert Mugabe, and you know what kind of brutal dictator he used to be. But they trusted him to deal with his own shit, to deal with his own problems.
Everything with him. They don't want to interfere in the internal affairs of a state where there is a government that is functioning. In this case, they think Swati is a fully functional government. And they are not going to come and start saying this and that. No. You might be missing the point because they think Mswati was left to, everything was left in the hands of Mswati. And by ignoring Isibaya, you will be ignoring something that can really, that will make it difficult for even SADC to come on your side and maybe say things on your behalf because but you refuse the negotiation. How can you claim that you are democratic or fighting for the rights of the people when you are refusing dialogue? It makes you look very stupid in the end. Very moronic and very idiotic. You might have a case, but you know, when people look back at things like this, and you might not even have a platform to defend yourself. People just make conclusions without even consulting you. That these conclusions are made in not on any particular forum. People just sit and say, these are morons. They refuse the discussion, which is open for everyone. Because the king will claim that Isibaya is open for everyone. Everyone. My people will be there, and were there, and I consulted them, and they told me this, that. Even the constitution that took place, that took about 8 years to make. He's proud of it in Mswati right now, but you realize that Mswati, being Mswati, of course, he's hallucinating about a lot of things, but really, that is your problem. Mswati is a problem that you have, and it's a problem that you have to find a way to deal with, because he has got so many issues that will make it very difficult for you guys to really take over and bring democracy to Swaziland. If you are as disorganized as you are, that is going to be a very difficult thing to happen, because I think honestly, you are disorganized. I want to be an honest friend. There is a lot of disorganization because I don't see you getting your point. And How do you expect, how do you expect to fix this dialogue thing anyway? How? Unless you can give a better alternative, or unless you've got other arrangements that you've made that are really tangible and concrete. We'll say, maybe dialogue is such a silly thing to do if you've made this particular arrangement, that are so concrete, that promise to really bring some real change. But if there's nothing, maybe if there's very little, maybe you need to mix that with dialogue through Isibaya, and then your case will be will be better. And Sadak will not blush when they hear that, oh, of course, we Isibaya, everyone with these presentations. You need to be vocal on the things that are very important to you, because I hear that Isibaya is a platform where people will be just trying to present themselves, to paint themselves as good people to the king. They will be saying things so that the king will see them and really reward them, and maybe give them positions like electioneering, or maybe campaigning for their own particular individual benefits. Instead of doing that, you will be campaigning for the cause that is so important for democracy, and make sure that you drown the voices of people who are just trying to electioneer, who are so selfish as to campaign for themselves. Drown them and say exactly what is important. Talk about democracy and talk about all the other things that you have been fighting for. I'm telling you, it will be different, Isibaya. If you are not scared, you say, people say that he has juju, this is witchcraft. Maybe once you are there, you fail to say anything. I don't think that is very true. Just to pray on the day that you are going there. Just make sure that you shake off all the voodooism that might surround you through prayer, and I think it's gonna work. You will say everything you want to say, and the king is gonna listen, and everyone who is there is going to listen. I thought by now you'd have put the king in a corner. I don't know whether the king is cornered right now. You thought that maybe you would have made some activities, some really, those isolated things that people are trying are just minor. I don't think it's cornering the king as such. I think as far as cornering the king is concerned, I think that area is a total failure. The king is still sitting there, is not shaken at all, because you can sense confusion in the other camp. You can sense that there is some confusion there. So dialogue is the only way out, and you have to confront the king. You have to come face to face with him, because they say that justice can only be achieved by listening to individuals, listening to them discussing any issues or any problems they share. The absence of effective dialogue means a deficient reality and a distorted justice. So by denying to get yourself involved in this, you are denying yourself some civilized involvement. You are going way back, maybe decisions were made through force, and that we don't want. And we also don't want civil war in Swaziland. Maybe if you talk to the king, he will listen. I don't like the idea of civil war. It might seem very attractive because people have not gone through war in Swaziland, but war is a very bad thing. So dialogue, in the end, even if you have war, you still come back to a situation where you have to have dialogue. So these plans, if they are there for war, maybe Swazis welcome them. I'm not going to have a comment on that, but all I'm telling you is that civil war is the worst kind of. We know what happened in Angola and in Mozambique. They're close by next door. Civil war really takes you back, way back. So why don't you start with dialogue while you are making your plans for other things? Maybe dialogue can work. If it works, it's good for everyone. Everyone will rejoice and delight in the benefits of dialogue. And they say that winning a war, the best kind of win that that people can have in a war is winning a war without even fighting. Winning a war without taking a gun and shooting the other guy. And you can win if you really have your facts, all your facts lined up, and to tell the king and to really force him into serious discussions. And there's quite a wide number of you, quite a large number of you. I think, I know he is difficult, but you never know. You might really move a mountain. And you need to have faith to do this. That you need to have faith that this dialogue is going to bring you something. Because you can't go into the discussion without any faith that at least there's something that can be ripped out of it. It's very unfortunate that some people are really bent on not going. I know some parties, we used to blame, people used to blame PUDEMO and Mlungisi. Mlungisi was the first one to realize that going for discussions under Isibaya was not a bad thing. And people were labeling him, they were saying that he's a sellout. They were quick to make conclusions about him and say, Mlungisi is a sellout, how can we talk about blah, 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 blah. Mswati is the king of Swaziland and you have to talk to him. Whatever happened, whichever way you need, if you are going to talk, you will need to talk to Mswati because he's the king. He might be a very bad king, but he's the king of Swaziland. He's the government in Swaziland, and there's no way you can avoid him. And Msulungis was right. Remember very clearly how people used to label him at sellout, and that was because of a difference in opinion. And I even tried in one of my videos to talk, in his defense, that people differ in opinion. In a democracy, even when you establish your democracy, you discover that opinions will never be the same simply because they belong to the same party. You just have to agree to disagree in the end, and that is how a democracy works. That is how a dialogue works. I know that the king would not make any big concessions, but I think you'll have left a footprint there. The king is not going to negotiate his power away. Any of his hold on power is not going to negotiate that away. But getting involved in Isibaya would make you'll have a record of having spoken to the king. And that, I think, is very, very important. That is very important, the idea that you left a footprint and the king would not really wish it away. And if you don't attend Isibaya, it's going to be to the king's advantage because the king is going to have his way on Isibaya there. And he's going to celebrate. If you refuse to go to attend Isibaya, he's going to celebrate because he's not going to have any tough time. From who? His own subjects, his own people, his own dogs. They back to his tune. And you are the only people who are supposed to make him feel a little uncomfortable. And that is very, very important in Swaziland at the moment, to make the king feel uncomfortable, even for a while. And you also be making your own, you'll be making your own records there. It's very necessary to make him feel uncomfortable. I'm not saying go to Isibaya because you can make the king is going to make any concessions. I'm sure he's going to make none. He's going to, unless he has made some, maybe there's been some very magical or I don't know, change to his mentality or to his state of mind. That king is not going to make any concessions. I'm not going to feed you any lies and say go there, the king will change, the king will give you this and that. He won't give you anything of substance, but you will have it on record that you talked to your king and the king refused to hear anything. Even if you are going to talk to SADC or any of these international bodies, they at least will hear you, they will understand what you are saying.
Instead of you talking to them and then the king say, I invited them for a dialogue and they refused to come, to which you won't have any answer. And that will be very, very embarrassing. And he will be saying the truth because he is inviting everyone. Although he's not inviting any particular party, he's saying to everyone, come, because he's not making any restrictions on any particular individuals. He's saying everyone, all the people, anyone in Swaziland, every Swazi, you must come and have a dialogue. And he's saying he has a dialogue with everyone, all of his subjects every year. And he's very proud of it, that every year is dialogue with these people and they reach consensus. Everything is negotiated. I have seen videos of him talking about these things. So go there and at least for a while, videos are there. You will be taking down videos of the things that you'll be saying. You'll be recording everything. And this is going to make a very big difference. Please, I'll be anxious to really watch those videos where you are making those presentations to the king, where you are going to be courageous enough to stand at Isibaya and represent yourself and really represent pro-democracy masses at Isibaya and make sure that the king understands a lot of the things that he doesn't understand about democracy. He doesn't understand anything about democracy because he thinks he's very democratic. Although Swaziland is an absolute monarchy, he thinks he is very democratic. That's the irony of it. Yeah, I was just recently watching Bagam also. You can see that the numbers are, those ladies, there are a lot of ladies there. And that really shows that Mswati, although we might not like him, he still has some numbers. You know, there are some people who are still behind him. Ladies who are asked to taste their own beer because there was fear of poisoning. They are there. And Bagam is happening as I am speaking right now. We might wish that nobody would go, but you know that Mswati rules by intimidation. Some people are in a position where they are easily intimidated by Mswati. They are either working for his government or they are somehow connected to him in a way that they can disentangle as easily as you can. So they find themselves having to go there whether they like it or not, by cohesion. So you discover that Isibaya will also happen in the same way. And then we'll go on and on with nothing tangible in going to happen in the near future, except these sporadic attacks that I always hear of, and the threat of killing 200 policemen and this and that, which sometimes doesn't even happen. So dialogue serves a lot of lives, it serves a lot of time, it serves a lot of, and it might not be the end game itself. Dialogue might only be a stepping stone where you might have to build on to do other things. Start from dialogue, then you move on to some other things that will really bring democracy to Swaziland. But dialogue surely is indispensable. It has to be, in matters of politics, you have to really be involved in dialogue. Especially in Swaziland, you can't avoid having dialogue with the king. This is We Africa. Please subscribe to the channel and share this video with others. And I want to see comments down there in the commentary section. Let us talk about these issues. Thank you so much.